Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I will be going through the entire process from no jumps to fully licensed skydiver, how long it took for me, and my experience with the AFF skydiving. So if you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and if you were curious about the requirements for a skydiving license, you are at the right video. So I will be going through each jump, kind of talking about what I was thinking, what was required, and how it all went. So let's get right into it. Alright, so like many other people, mine started with a tandem skydive. So you can see there's my friend Callum and my dad over near the door. And then there's me and my instructor. So I was super excited for this jump. I just turned 18, recently graduated from high school. And I decided to go last to watch my dad and friend jump out first, which is just unreal to see. I mean, for that very first skydive, you really don't know what to expect. You can see the point of maximum fear and excitement was at the door there. And then once you jump, everything just melts away. And it was one of the most thrilling and exciting experiences I've ever had. That first tandem skydive, it's always super fun to look back on, but you can just see how overwhelming and exciting it is. So yeah, that really started it off for me. After the tandem skydive, I really didn't think there was much more to skydiving. I thought it's marked off the bucket list and that's that. But it turns out there's a lot more, and that's what I realized shortly after. When I looked on their website, I realized for your level 1 jump, you can actually jump with your own parachute system. And the way traditional AFF works is it's 8 levels long. So you do 8 jumps and then the rest are solo jumps to get yourself proficient. And then you can apply for the A license. In total, it requires 25 jumps regardless of what program you do. But for the program I did, which was in Perris Valley, California, it was 16 coach-led jumps. So it's double the amount of coached jumps than the traditional AFF course. I honestly didn't know there was any differences between drop zones. That's where I did my tandem, so that's where I decided to do my AFF course. And it all started with the level 1 jump. So before you do your very first jump with your parachute system, it's required that you do an 8-hour ground school there at the drop zone. So that's pretty much just going over how the entire skydive is going to work, different malfunctions that can happen with the parachute and how to fix those, and everything else that's required for your first jump. Once you pull your parachute, you are by yourself. Your instructors can't stick with you at that point. So it's up to you to fix any malfunctions that happen and land the parachute by yourself. But you're taught about flaring, how to parachute landing fall if you don't flare at the right altitude, which is around 10 feet from the ground. So yeah, it's a very simple jump. You're not in free fall by yourself at all. You have 2 instructors holding on to you on either side. So it's really just to overcome the sensory overload and kind of get used to the feeling of skydiving a little bit more. So right before the jump, you do a mock-up at a fake plane door. So you can see I got the 2 instructors there. I'm in the poise position at the door, and we are just kind of discussing, checking in with the instructor and how I signal to them that I'm jumping out. So you can see straight into an arched position, belly to earth. You see Louise saying chin up, checking altitude, checking in with them. And this is a crucial step in doing your first jump, is going over the entire routine in your head so you can kind of get used to how it's gonna go in the air. So here's us walking out to the plane. There's my dad, who decided to join me for the level 1 jump. And there's me super excited to finally board the plane after the long 8-hour ground school. And we actually didn't get to jump the same exact day as the ground school. That's because it was super windy that day, so we had to wait till the next day, which was super annoying because I was so ready for the jump and anticipating it. So the ride up in the plane to altitude is a lot different than the tandem skydive because you are just busy discussing exactly what you need to do in free fall, exactly how you're going to land the parachute. And instead of just feeling super excited, there was a little bit of nervousness going on in my head, and I just knew I couldn't mess up. I had to pass this level. So you can see we are at altitude and people began to jump out ahead of us. Now, I remember at this moment, I was super excited. Excitement for me comes with some fear, but the fear is really not recognized that much. Didn't feel that much pressure just because I knew in free fall I would have 2 instructors helping me the entire way. The cameraman goes out onto the camera step and I get in position. check in with my instructor, and you can see just how hesitant I am to even put my body outside the plane. You can see kind of a sluggish exit, but for a level 1 jump, it's not expected to be perfect. So as the cameraman flies closer, you can notice just how overwhelmed I am with a sensory overload, because it had been a long time since I've jumped, and I was trying my best to do the 3 practice touches, which is required. And you can see Lee even trying to pull my hand back, but I just was so overwhelmed. And then you can see he tells me again to do the last 2 practice touches, and I do those. And you can see I'm just kind of like just trying my best to stay composed. I see the cameraman. It came time to pull. It came really quick, so I didn't even realize. And you can see I wave off and pull. At that moment when I pulled the parachute, it was the most blissful feeling I've ever felt. I was so excited. I was like so thankful for my parachute to come out and save me. And at that moment I was hooked. I was completely hooked. And I remember just in the air doing a lot of fun turns, and I was just having a blast in my own parachute. So yeah, that's when I was completely hooked. But it wasn't until I landed the parachute and touched down on ground when it all kind of came together. That's when I realized just how insane this sport is. Honestly, doing the level 1 jump, I didn't expect to complete the license. I really didn't look ahead that far. I just wanted to jump a little bit more. I was more in the short-term frame of mind. That prompted me to do the level 2 jump a few months after that. And unfortunately, my dad didn't have as good of an experience. He couldn't pull his own parachute just because during the practice touches, you're really supposed to get the feel of where your pilot chute is. And he just thought you're practicing the movement. He couldn't pull his own parachute, and when you don't pull your own parachute, it's a little bit disorientating when the parachute actually comes out because you just don't expect it. When you're so overwhelmed with that very first jump, it's hard to stay focused on what's important. Unfortunately, on landing, he twisted his ankle, and that kind of gave him a bad aftertaste after the jump was over. After a few months, I decided to continue with the level 2 jump. So let's get into that one. So the level 2 jump is when things get real. So you jump with 1 instructor instead of 2, and through the free fall, you can have what's called an earned release, where if you show to your instructor that you are there and you are focused, then he can let go of you, and you can try to keep a heading, which is stay straight and not spin. And it's your very first time in free fall without anyone attached to you. So it's a super exciting jump, but it's also super challenging just in your head because you have no one holding on to you and you're just in free fall by yourself. One of my friends that did the level 1 jump with me had already failed this level several times. So I was already just a little bit nervous. It had been a few months. And once you don't jump for a long time, you get resensitized into the actual thrill, and it makes it a lot more difficult to stay calm and stay relaxed, because it's super important when you're in free fall to stay relaxed, because if you're super rigid and super nervous, then the wind will catch you and control you more. Whereas when you're relaxed, wind will freely flow around you and you'll have an easier time flying your body. So before the level 2 jump, it's required that you have 10 minutes of tunnel time, which is just an indoor tunnel where you can practice your body control, leg awareness, and overall position of your body. I spent my first 10 minutes in the tunnel. I would say my performance in the tunnel for the first 10 minutes were below average. I was jumping with this instructor. He had told me straight up as we drove away from the tunnel that normally he wouldn't pass someone with that performance, but he said he would let me give it a try in the air to do my level 2 jump. And then I asked him, what are the chances that I pass this level? And he said very slim. So I had to think about that, and I really didn't want to jump under those circumstances knowing that I probably will fail, because for one, that sucks mentally, and 2, it's like $280 for each jump. That's a lot of money to spend on a failed jump, and I just didn't want to fail. So I decided to spend another $250 to do 10 more minutes in the tunnel, and that way I can kind of work on my body positioning and heading control a little bit more before going up to altitude. So that's what I did. And after the first 5 minutes, Tristan pulled me out and said, you look good enough. Something kind of clicked in my head and I can hold a heading in the tunnel. So after that, I decided to just go for it and do my level 2 jump. So for my level 2 jump, I ended up failing this level, and I did a few things wrong that I just overlooked because I was just so overwhelmed and just wanted to pass so bad. One of the things was the exit. So when you're exiting, you want to present your entire body to the wind, square. So you don't want any shoulders off. You want to be completely perpendicular to the plane as you jump out. And I dove in the tunnel so many times that morning that the habit was just to dive out. And you can see as I dive out, it kind of makes me a little bit disorientated. I have like flared elbows, my chin's tucked. So eventually I look over at the instructor. He gives me the thumbs up and he lets go of me. And instantly we start spinning in kind of a left-hand spin. You can see I'm rocking back and forth. And that's just completely because I am just stiff. I'm not relaxed and I can't correct my spin. So you can see I thought he would give me another attempt for some reason, but there was just not enough time. I lost altitude awareness. He tells me to pull. I don't even wave off. I just go straight for the pull handle and pull. And I knew at that moment I was screwed. I had spent so long thinking about this jump and wanting to pass, especially because my friend had said she had failed so many times on this jump. I just wanted to get it over with and continue through. So this devastated me completely. I remember touching down. I felt so annoyed and frustrated that I failed that level. And honestly, I didn't want to touch skydiving ever again after that. It was so traumatizing, and now that I think back to it, I'm like, why was I so frustrated and annoyed that I failed that level? But I think it was just in the moment, I just wanted to get through it so bad, and I ended up just failing. And I left there not expecting to ever come back and do more levels. Like I had said, it was more of like a short-term thing where I just wanted to jump, and I didn't realize that this jump was sort of the intro into real solo jumps. So after a few weeks, I couldn't stop watching this video and cringing at how frustrating that jump was. I had probably watched it a few hundred times, like that's how bad it was, and I couldn't get over the fact that I failed. So I called Skydive Perris and asked for a redo of level 2 and planned it for that Friday. And my thought process was, I just want to fail that level and then never touch skydiving again. I didn't want to end on a fail. I wanted to end on a pass, just so I didn't feel like it was a fail. That Friday, I went back and did 10 more minutes in the tunnel, and that takes us to this video, which is the level 2 redo. It was with the same instructor, and I was determined. I wasn't even worried about how fun the jump was. I was just determined to pass this level. So you can see, focused on the exit. The exit was way better. As soon as I jumped, it felt right. So you can see the first practice touch, I couldn't find my handle. And second one, I found it. You see, I have an earned release, and instantly it just looks a day and night better. So you can see a little bit of rocking, but I sort of control it. And I remember feeling that rocking and just being so worried, like, please don't mess up. I was determined to pass this at all costs. And I don't know what would have happened if I didn't pass this level. You can see checking altitude, I didn't want to lose awareness like I did last jump. I do a little bit, but then I check and pull, and you can see the big thumbs up. And I was happy. I remember still feeling a little bit unsure, like, did I pass that or did I not? Instantly when I touched ground, it was a very different feeling. I felt like that was a fun skydive. I didn't feel super frustrated, and I was just happy I passed. It took a little bit more convincing to do more levels, but that jump redeemed the experience of skydiving. It didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth, and I left there happy and willing to do more jumps. So similar to level 2, it's required that you do 10 additional minutes for the level 3 tunnel. And I had already done 15 minutes, so technically I only had to do 5, but I decided to just do another 10 minutes more just to improve my body control and fix that like leaf effect that I had on level 2. I was super worried that that would affect my future jumps, and I wanted to really get the arch down because I was arching from my chest instead of my hips, and that makes it a lot harder to fly. So that additional 10 minutes in the tunnel really helped with fall rate and heading control and simply turning control. So here's where things get a lot more fun. It's the same exit as level 2, which I've pretty much nailed. I feel comfortable now presenting my arch to the wind. I'm supposed to do one practice touch, and then I have a release, and you can see instantly just how better I'm flying. I'm not having that leaf effect falling down and rocking back and forth. You can see I'm checking altitude every turn, and this is a lot more solid than level 2. So that's how fast you can progress from looking like completely out of control to pretty decent turns. You can see I'm still kind of arching with my chest, but I have a way more stable body control in the air. So you can see a nice wave off. Still a little bit fast, but it's still level 3. You can't do everything perfect, and the entire point of these levels is just to get the jumps in and practice. It's not going to look perfect. So moving on to the level 4 jump, these are simply just 180-degree turns. So instead of 90s, you're turning all the way away from your instructor, checking your altimeter, and turning all the way back. And so it's pretty similar to level 3. That's what's pretty cool about the Perris skydiving program, is it's very slow improvements through the course. You're not doing any big leaps. I think that made it super easy to progress through the program. So you can see this guy is probably on like level 10 or 11, and he's doing the diving exit, which will be coming up. But I am still on level 4, so you can see the same exact exit. Instructor's still holding on to me on exit, and I jump out. Pretty decent exit. We see just a nice floating down, and you can see I go for my practice touch. My pilot chute's actually like a quarter of the way out of the BOC, so you can see I still touched it, but it was just a little bit different. You can see the 180 turns here, pretty nice, keeping the heading, checking altimeter, and turning back. So it's pretty good. It's pretty similar to level 3, so it really didn't feel that difficult. And so we go off heading a little bit, but that's okay. And you can see checking altimeter, and that's it. That's all you have to do for the jump. You can see I'm just waiting, no more maneuvers, waiting for 6,000, waving off and pulling. Another simple jump, and moving on to level 5. This is 180-degree leg turns. So instead of using your arms to turn, you're simply using your legs. So my level 5 jump was jumping out of a Skyvan, which is a lot different from the Twin Otter. Instead of jumping out of a door, you're pretty much jumping out of the back. So I was super nervous on the ride up. It's a lot louder and a lot slower. And it was the first time I'd kind of felt like overwhelming amounts of like panic and regret for even like, why am I even doing this? I shouldn't be here. And you can see here's me lining up for the exit. And what's scary about this one is you're not even looking at your exit. You have to jump backwards. It's a fine exit, and instantly I feel way better than in the plane. So you can see these are leg turns, and it's a lot different from arm turns because you're using the opposite leg to turn, which can be very disorientating. And you can see I have a few good ones, and then I use the wrong leg once or twice, and you can see how wrong that feels when I use the wrong leg. You see the turns don't have as much power. So you can see I did what's required. Kind of had to wait for altitude to wave off and pull. But you can see I'm doing a lot better at checking my altimeter and making sure I'm aware of how low I am. So level 6 is a huge leap. It's the first solo exit, so your instructor's not holding on to you at all. So this one I was super excited about. It was my second jump of the day, so I wasn't really nervous at all. You can see we're spotting the drop zone for the first time, making sure the wing's level. Nothing's interfering in the airspace. There's no planes under us. I kind of go backwards a little bit, but just keep the belly to earth. Do one practice touch, and then this 360 turns, which are pretty simple at this point. It's actually a lot easier than like 90-degree turns or 180s, just because you go all the way through and don't really have to stop yourself. So you can see I tried to do a leg turn, but I used the wrong leg. Okay turns, but you can see I'm kind of disappointed with that. And that's it for the jump, just waiting for altitude. And you can see I kind of get this leaf effect going, which kind of scared me. And the instructor told me that's because you get a little bit nervous anticipating the pull. You want to make sure you pull stable, which is kind of the most crucial part of the skydive. So level 7 is the rear float exit. So this is another solo exit where you are standing outside of the plane, and this was a fun one for me. So you see we spot the drop zone, make sure the wings level and the lights on, and you can see me climb out and get into the position, up, down, out, and this was a wild exit. This felt really fun, especially because it was solo. So you can see I'm stable, do one practice touch, even a lot better. And this is forward movement, so you drive your legs down so you can get some forward movement to dock. You can see my instructor backs up, and I'm just trying to figure out what works and how to fly forward. So this was another fun one. You can see dock a second time, check altitude, reset, and another forward movement, and that was good. You can see I was pretty hyped about that one. And for some reason specifically, I remember this moment when I was in free fall. When there's not much else to think about, you realize you're in free fall. And I waved off. It was good, but I was like internally just buzzing with excitement, just because it was really the first time I thought about what I'm actually doing, which is being in free fall. And that's how crazy it could be skydiving when you're so focused on one or two things at a time. You're overwhelmed. You don't really realize what you're actually doing. So this is when I started having more clarity in mind and noticing smaller things in the air. So level 8 is a front float exit and intro into tracking. So this is the very first jump. We're putting our arms down to our sides and practicing the track. Now tracking is super important for skydiving. It's crucial when you're jumping with other people to track away before pulling your parachute, and this is a huge jump. So you can see another good exit. Check my altimeter, do a practice touch, and this is the very first track. You can see it's pretty good for a first track. I stay stable, I have some forward movement. You can see I face my instructor again, do a second track, and what's required is 2 5-second tracks, which was totally fine. You can see I'm waiting to pull now. Pull the parachute in another passing level. So that one was a really fun one. This jump is one I was looking forward to, similar to tracking, but like 10 times that, which is a diving exit and barrel rolls. I'd seen so many people do diving exits, and I was so tired of standing at the door and presenting to the wind. I just wanted to jump out into a dive. My instructor goes outside the door. You can see just how excited I am. You can see the dive. It was pretty well done for the first dive. You can see my practice touch. I still have the habit of kind of turning when I touch. You can see these are barrel rolls, which was just so much fun. I remember just being so overwhelmed with excitement doing the barrel rolls. And at this point, I just wanted to do flips and stuff. That was so much fun to me. And then you can see a little track away, and this is the first time you track away from your instructor, which is really fun. Level 10 is another diving exit, and this is what's called front and back loops, which is pretty much just front and back flips and then docks. So pretty similar, just progressing a little bit at a time. So you can see after we spot the drop zone, my instructor gets onto the camera step, and instead of a rear dive, this is a front dive, which was done very well. My instructor gave me a lot of good tips on presenting to the wind sideways. You can see I do a practice touch and my first back flip, which felt really fun. You can see a big smile. Check altimeter, front flip, which I didn't really complete. Kind of went into a sit for a second and then tumbled back down. But the entire point of this isn't to look good and do perfect flips. It's not acrobatics. It's pretty much just to make yourself unstable and making sure you can get back into belly position. Time to track away, which for some reason this track wasn't as good. I kind of dropped my left arm and did a wave off, pulled, and that was level 10. So after level 10, there's no specific requirements for each jump. It's pretty much just continuing to improve body awareness and advancing your skill sets. So your instructor will ask you what you want to work on, and you will just kind of make up what you want to do for each jump. And this requires 5 jumps, so it's levels 11 through 16. And unfortunately level 12 wasn't recorded, but I think I just did more front and back flips because I told them I wanted to keep practicing instability drills, is what I like to call it, even though I just wanted to do front flips and back flips out of the plane. So this is the level 12 jump. You can see a solo exit, and this is actually the very first jump I used my own rig. I had never rented any gear. Luckily, an instructor was selling a student rig for pretty cheap, so I was super excited to jump my own rig, and this is when things started getting real. I'm nearing the end of my license. I'm still on level 12, but that's pretty close to getting cleared for solos. You can see we were just doing a matching fall rates and docking, which was super useful stuff, but this is when things get really fun. I remember just being super excited to jump. And at this point, I was doing 3+ jumps every time I went. So I was going once a week, and I just wanted to get done with this license super bad. So you can see I track away, pull, and that's level 12. So level 13 was pretty similar to the rest, just a swoop and dock, some leg turns, and a backflip. I decided to switch it up for this jump and leave the audio raw, just to include at least one jump with the raw audio. Level 14, this is another rear dive exit, and this is where things get really fun. And through the license, it just gets crazier and crazier, but you never expect it to get as crazy as it does. And this is the first jump where I realized just how hard it was to link up with another skydiver in freefall. I'd been jumping with instructors, which I didn't really think about, but they work super hard to stay next to you, and it's not hard for them just because they've done so many jumps, but you just don't realize how different it is jumping with someone who's not working really hard to stay next to you. But this was another super fun jump, and we jumped pretty far from the drop zone, and you can see I tracked all the way away from it. So it was the first time I pulled and thought I wasn't going to make it back to the drop zone, but it was another fun jump, and I learned a lot in level 14. So level 15 is what's called a check dive. So this is really the last jump where you are required to do a certain amount of things in the jump to pass. So you're pretty much mixing everything that you've learned into one jump. So for a lot of people, it's like nerve-wracking, and it's kind of like your graduation into solo jumps. So you can see I'm doing 2 360s. I did a backflip, and now I'm docking. So it's forward movement, turns, instability, tracking, all in one. So I remember I was pretty confident in passing this level, and I did pretty good with every maneuver. You can see I turn into the track, and already it just looks a whole lot better, and you can kind of see in real time the improvements I made through the course. Level 16 was, I think, one of my favorites in the entire course, and this was just a fun jump. So you get to decide exactly what you want to do, and I decided to do some backflips out of the plane, which was so much fun. This is what I've been dying to do for so long. You can see after the backflips, I meet up with my instructor. This was actually really cool because he told me to slow down, and I actually slowed down pretty well to not crash into him. So still learning a whole lot on each jump. And then you see here we're doing like two-way formations, which really helps you practice body control. We ended it into like a 10-second track, which wasn't quite 10 seconds, but still felt super cool doing more than 5 seconds. You can see I wave off, look around, and pull. And that was the very last jump with instructors. So after this, you are cleared for solos, which are start with 2 hop and pops, which is pretty much jumping out at half the altitude as a normal skydive. And this is to kind of simulate something happening with the plane, requiring to jump out and pull your parachute immediately, which does happen and is required even in your level 1 to learn how to do. But this is just practicing it in real life and jumping out low and pulling instantly. So I don't have any of these on footage because you're not allowed to have cameras until you have 200 skydives. So those went pretty well. I'm still learning a whole lot through these jumps, and after those 2 hop and pops, you have to just do solos until you hit 25 jumps, and then you can turn in your proficiency card to an instructor to mark off, and you submit it to the USPA and get your A license. And that's exactly what happened. I think I did that within 2 days in those following weeks, and after that I had my license, and that was the entire AFF journey. I hope this was informative for you if you are either wanting to see how someone else's AFF went, or you are just looking into skydiving and seeing what it will take for getting your A license. Now, again, this is Perris Skydiving program. This isn't your traditional AFF course, which is 8 levels. So it is a lot more jumps, and I did feel frustrated. Like, I wish I had just done a shorter course because I just wanted to be licensed. But I believe in the long run, it was smart and safe for me, especially because I wanted to turbo through the entire course and just get my license. I have no regrets for doing the PSP program, and I'm glad that I did it because I got a lot more jumps in with instructors and got a lot more proficient as a skydiver before getting cleared for solos. So if you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and comment. So hope you all enjoyed, and catch you in the next video.